My name is Claire Whitfield, and I am 34 years old, on a Friday afternoon in March. My boss called me into his office, closed the door, and told me my position was being eliminated. Effective immediately, he used the words restructuring and difficult market conditions, and we really value everything you have done here. He did not know that the contract renewal for our largest client, the one worth $4.2 million a year, the one I had personally managed for 6 years, had already been signed 3 days earlier, with a different company, mine. Before we get into this, if you are new here, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Drop your city and the time where you are watching from. I read every comment. Let me take you back to the beginning. The morning I first understood that loyalty, in most companies, only flows in one direction. I joined Bramwell Logistics 9 years ago as an account coordinator. Entry level, $28,000 a year. A cubicle near the printer that jammed twice a day. My manager then was a woman named Patricia who taught me everything that actually mattered. How to read a shipping contract line by line. How to spot a margin error before it became a 6-figure mistake. How to talk to a client who was angry without ever raising your own voice. Patricia retired 4 years in. The company brought in Derek Holt to replace her. Derek was the kind of manager who measured his own success by how loud he could be in a meeting. He took credit easily and gave it reluctantly. But he was also smart enough to recognize talent when it was useful to him. He promoted me to senior account manager within a year. He gave me the Harrington account. Harrington Distribution was, at the time, a mid-sized client. $200,000 a year in freight contracts. Reliable, unremarkable. The kind of account nobody fought over. I was assigned to it because nobody else wanted it. I treated it like it was the only account in the building. I learned the name of every warehouse manager Harrington had across 4 states. I learned their shipping cycles, their seasonal spikes, their pain points. When their main carrier failed them during a winter storm in my 2nd year on the account, I was the one who stayed on the phone until 11 at night, rerouting 3 truckloads through 2 backup carriers I had already pre-negotiated rates with. Just in case, Harrington's operations director, a man named Walter Greer, called Derek the next morning to thank him for, quote, having someone like that on the account. Derek told him it was a team effort. I was the team. I was also the only one who knew it. Over the next 5 years, Harrington grew. Their business expanded into 2 new states. They added an e-commerce division that needed faster, more flexible logistics. Every time their needs changed, I was already 3 steps ahead, restructuring their contracts before they had to ask. By year 6, Harrington Distribution was paying Bramwell $4.2 million annually. It had become our single largest client. 20% of the company's total logistics revenue ran through one relationship I had built, maintained, and protected for 6 years while earning a salary that, even after 3 promotions, still topped out at $91,000. Derek, meanwhile, made partner-level bonuses off the account's performance every single year. His title grew. Mine stayed the same. Senior account manager. Always senior. Never anything more. I asked for a title change twice. Both times I was told the budget did not allow it. This fiscal year, the budget allowed it for Derek's new company car. I want to be clear about something. I did not start planning anything out of bitterness. Not at first. I started paying attention because Derek had started making mistakes, small ones at first. Missing a quarterly review with Harrington because he had a golf outing. Forwarding me client emails at 11 at night asking me to handle it. Can you just take care of this? Thanks. Then bigger ones. He misquoted a freight rate to Walter Greer that was off by almost 8%. A mistake that would have cost Harrington an additional $60,000 over the contract year, had I not caught it during a routine review and corrected it before the invoice went out. Walter never knew how close that mistake came to damaging the relationship. I made sure of that. I always made sure of that. But I started keeping notes, dates, details, not because I was building a case, because I was a logistics professional. And logistics professionals do not survive without documentation. The first real warning came in year 7. Bramwell brought in a management consulting firm to review departmental efficiency. Standard corporate exercise. Spreadsheets, interviews, recommendations nobody fully implements. During my interview, the consultant asked me to describe my role on the Harrington account. I told her honestly that I managed nearly all client communication. contract negotiation, rate structuring, and service recovery for the account. She asked who handled the relationship at the executive level. I told her that was Derek. She wrote something down and did not ask a follow-up question. I did not think much of it at the time. 2 weeks later, Derek called me into his office. He told me casually that the consulting firm's report had identified, quote, redundancy concerns in account management overhead. He said it like he was sharing gossip, not a warning. I went home that night and sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I did not panic. I did something more useful. I called a former colleague, a woman named Priya, who had left Bramwell 2 years earlier to join a smaller logistics firm called Meridian Freight Partners as their VP of operations. We had stayed in touch the way coworkers sometimes do. Occasional coffee, the occasional vent session about industry frustrations. I asked her, carefully, hypothetically, what Meridian's growth plans looked like. She told me they were actively trying to break into the mid-market distribution space and had the operational capacity to handle a client the size of Harrington. If such a client were ever looking. I did not say anything else that day. I just filed the information away the way I filed everything else, carefully, quietly, with dates attached. 8 months passed. I kept doing my job exactly as well as I always had, because that was never the issue. The issue was never my performance. In that time, 3 things happened that I want to walk you through clearly, because they matter. First, Derek began excluding me from strategic planning meetings about Harrington's contract renewal, scheduled for the following spring. He told me he wanted to, quote, streamline communication going forward. What that meant, in practice, was that decisions about an account I had run for 7 years were now being made by people who had spoken to Walter Greer maybe twice in their entire careers. Second, I received an email, forwarded by mistake from a junior coordinator who had not realized I was not supposed to see it, outlining a department restructuring plan for the upcoming fiscal year. My name was on a list under a heading that said role consolidation candidates. Third, I had coffee with Walter Greer. Walter and I had coffee every quarter. It was not unusual. It had been part of our working relationship for years. What was unusual was what he said that particular Tuesday. He told me Bramwell's renewal proposal for the following year had arrived, and it included a 15% rate increase with no corresponding service improvements, and that the proposal had been put together by, quote, someone in the home office who had clearly never spoken to anyone at Harrington directly. He asked me, somewhat pointedly, whether I had been involved in drafting it. I told him the truth. I had not been consulted. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked me a question that changed everything. He asked hypothetically what it would take for Harrington to work directly with me, wherever that happened to be. I did not answer him that day. I told him I needed to think about some things and that I would follow up. I went home and I called Priya again. This time the conversation was not hypothetical. I told her everything. The exclusion from planning meetings, the role consolidation list, the rate increase proposal nobody at Harrington had been consulted on, the conversation with Walter. She asked me one question. She asked if I thought I could bring the relationship with me if I made a move. I told her I did not think I could. I told her I knew I could, because I was the relationship. I had been for 7 years. Derek had simply been the name on the org chart standing in front of it. She set up a call with Meridian's CEO for the following week. The process took for months. I want to be specific about this, because the timing matters enormously to what happened next. Meridian built a formal proposal for Harrington's logistics needs. I consulted on it during evenings and weekends, never during work hours, never using Bramwell resources, never touching a single document or system that belonged to my employer. I was careful about this in a way that I would later be very grateful for. Walter took the proposal to Harrington's leadership. They reviewed Bramwell's renewal proposal side by side with Meridian's offer. Meridian's pricing was competitive. Their service model was more flexible. And critically, the proposal demonstrated a depth of understanding about Harrington's specific operational needs that Bramwell's renewal document simply did not have. Because I had written most of it, the decision took 6 weeks. Harrington's leadership voted to move their logistics contract to Meridian Freight Partners, effective the start of the new fiscal year. The contract was signed on a Tuesday in early March. I was hired by Meridian as Senior Director of Client Operations the same week, with a salary nearly double what Bramwell had ever paid me. and a title that finally matched the work I had been doing for years. 3 days after the contract was signed, Derek called me into his office. He closed the door. He did not look at me when he started talking. He said the word restructuring. He said difficult market conditions. He said the company had to make some difficult decisions about overhead, and that my position was, regrettably, one of them. He said, "We really value everything you have done here." The way people say things they read off a printed script. He handed me a folder. Severance terms. 2 weeks of pay for every year of service. A non-disparagement clause. A request that I clean out my desk by the end of the day. I asked him one question. I asked, "Has Harrington's renewal been finalized?" He paused. He said the team was, quote, "finalizing details, but that it was essentially done. A formality." I nodded. I thanked him for the conversation. I packed 2 boxes, mostly photos and a coffee mug, and I walked out of Bramwell Logistics for the last time without saying anything else. He found out on Monday morning. Bramwell's CFO called an emergency meeting after Harrington's procurement department sent formal notice that their account would be transferring to Meridian Freight Partners, effective the first of the new fiscal year, a $4.2 million account, 22% of the company's logistics revenue, gone, with a signature that had been finalized 3 days before. Derek, let me go. I heard about the meeting secondhand, from a former co-worker who texted me that afternoon. Just one line, "Derek looks like he saw a ghost." I did not gloat. I want to be honest about that. I did not feel triumphant in the way you might expect. I felt something closer to relief. The relief of someone who had spent 7 years building something only to watch someone else take credit for it. Finally being able to put it down and pick up something that was actually mine. Derek called me 11 days later. I almost did not answer. He said he wanted to talk about a potential consulting arrangement to help with the Harrington transition. Something to smooth things over for both companies. I told him the transition was already smooth. Walter had told me the new contracts had been processed without a single disruption to service. He asked more directly this time if I had known about the Meridian deal when he let me go. I told him the truth. I told him I had known for months. I told him I had also known, for months, that my position was being eliminated, because I had seen the list with my name on it. The one a junior coordinator had accidentally forwarded to me. There was a long silence on the line. He asked why I had not said anything. I told him there was nothing to say. He had already decided what I was worth to the company. I simply made sure the company understood what I was actually worth in a market that was paying attention. Walter and I still meet for coffee every quarter. The conversations are different now, easier. There is no org chart standing between the relationship and the work anymore. Meridian's leadership occasionally asks me how I built the kind of trust with a client that survives a company transition without a single hiccup. I tell them the truth. I tell them you build it the same way every single time, slowly, specifically, by learning the things about a person's business that nobody else bothers to learn, and by being the person who shows up at 11 at night when the trucks are stuck in a snowstorm. I tell them title and salary are lagging indicators. They tell you what a company has decided to admit eventually about something that was already true. I think about Patricia sometimes, the manager who trained me all those years ago, who taught me to read a contract line by line and to never raise my voice with an angry client. She once told me that the people who survive longest in this industry are not the loudest in the room. They are the ones who quietly understand exactly how much they are worth and wait patiently for the market to catch up to the math. It took 7 years. It took one badly timed restructuring memo. It took a single conversation over coffee. That started as a complaint and became an opportunity. But the market caught up. That is my story. If you have ever been the person doing the work, while someone else got the title, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. And if this story reminded you that your value does not depend on what someone else is willing to admit, share it with someone who needs to hear that today. I will see you in the next one.